Hello and welcome back to my channel. If you're a returning subscriber, I just want to say thank you for your continual support. If you are new to this channel, please hit the subscribe button. Okay, so in today's video, I'm going to be giving you a summary of the poems in the Edexcel Conflict Anthology so that you can have an idea of what each poem is about. Now, the first poem in the Conflict Anthology is A Poison Tree by William Blake. In this poem, the speaker talks about the feelings of anger that he feels towards a friend and the destructive consequences of not telling his friend how he feels. The next poem in the Conflict Anthology, The Destruction of Sennacherib by Lord Byron. Now, in this poem, we are given an account of how the Assyrian army, who were led by their king Sennacherib, goes to Jerusalem to wage war against the children of God. However, at nighttime while they're sleeping, the angel of death appears and kills all of them. The next poem is Extract from the Prelude by William Wordsworth. I hate this poem. I'm just going to be straightforward. It just annoys me. But anyways, please have mercy. Anyway, so in this poem, William Wordsworth recounts his journey he made when he was younger. He steals a boat, tries to explore nature's beauty. However, he has to interrupt his journey because of the changes in the weather and the obstacles that he finds in his journey, which makes it impossible for him to progress. The next poem is The Man He Killed by Thomas Hardy. This is a poem that I find very interesting. The poem is written from the perspective of a soldier. The soldier finds himself trying to justify with significant difficulty the reason why he killed another soldier. Next poem is Cousin Kate by CRISTINA Rossetti. Well, so this poem is just... I think the most basic way to actually summarize this poem is you have a boyfriend, he cheats on you with your cousin. Hell no. Okay, so the poem expresses feelings of hurt felt by a maiden who is used and dumped by a man she loves. She's also disappointed in him because he leaves her, despite knowing that she's pregnant, he leaves her to marry her cousin. Tragic. Next poem is Half Caste by John Argard. Now, this poem is lit, okay? I really love this poem. I like the fact that the poem is very anti-conventional in its style. In this poem, Argard announces the ignorance of those who choose to label him as an half caste because he's mixed race. He juxtaposes his label, half caste, to the beautiful things in life that people tend to appreciate, such as art, nature, and he does this trying to make sense of what people mean when they call him half caste. Our next poem is Exposure by WILFRED OWEN, which is also an autobiographical poem because Wilfred Owen, as we know, was a soldier in World War I. So in this poem, Owen gives his perspective on his experiences in World War I and the agony felt by the soldiers as they waited in the biting cold for the enemy. The next poem is The Charge of the Light Brigade. In this poem, Tennyson recounts the Battle of Balaclava and how the lack of communication led to the defeat of the Light Brigade. He also talks about how, despite the fact that the soldiers knew that they were going to lose anyways, they fought until the end. Another poem on the Conflict Anthology is Catrin or Catrin by GILLIAN CLARKE. This poem is quite an interesting poem. GILLIAN talks about the inevitable changes that happens in the relationship between a mother and a child when the child becomes a teenager. GILLIAN talks about how the child was born. She talks about how her child has grown up, and she talks about the constant confrontation that she has with her daughter because her daughter finds it difficult to accept the boundaries set by her. That's what teenagers do. They just like to, just stress their mothers. Like, come on, guys. Another poem in the Conflict Anthology is War Photographer by Carole. My feelings towards this poem is the same one I feel towards Extract from the Prelude. The poem describes the challenges that a war photographer faces in relation to capturing the misery that people go through during war times. It's a very interesting poem. However, the beginning of the poem is quite no comment. Next poem, Belfast Confetti. I really like this poem. Like, it's just interesting. In this poem, the poetry tells how life suddenly changed for the people who lived during the Troubles. For those of you who do not know, the Troubles was an ethno-nationalist conflict that happened in Northern Ireland. The writer talks about the consequences of war and also the feelings of confusion that the war brought about in people's everyday life. Next poem is The Class Game. Mary Casey exposes the class games that are played in society in relation to social class a person belongs to. She condemns the attitudes of the higher class towards the lower class, and she questions how they can tell what class someone belongs to by merely looking at them. Another poem in the conflict anthology is Poppies. The poet describes the relationship between a mother and her son, with a particular focus on the feeling of loss that she feels because her son leaves for war. She does not want him to leave for war, but she obviously knows that her son is of age. He's old enough to make his own decisions, and there's nothing she can do to stop him from leaving. Another poem on the conflict cluster is No Problem by Benjamin ZEPHANIAH. In this poem, ZEPHANIAH, he talks about how he experienced discrimination when he was growing up, the stereotypes that are attributed to him because he's a black man, and how it affected and still affects him. The last poem of the conflict anthology is What Were They Like? Now, in this poem, the poet talks about the consequences of war. The focus is on Vietnam and how its existence, its population, and its culture would have been forgotten if the American military had destroyed the country completely during the Vietnam War. So I've reached the end of my video. I hope you found it useful. If you learned something new or are looking forward to learn some more, please subscribe to my channel. And as usual, don't forget to like, comment, and share. Thank you.